appreciate everybody being here. At this time, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Clerk Barger, if you will, please call the roll.
Master Combs?
Here.
Master Barger? Here. Master Tudor?
Here.
Master Buckin?
Present.
Judge Taylor?
Here. At this time, if you all will, bow your heads with me. Let's pray together. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for this wonderful day. Lord, thank you for the many blessings that you give us each and every day. Lord, thank you for the people in this room. Lord, just give the fiscal court here the open minds. Give us patience. Give us understanding. But at the same time, our community the same. Lord, we thank you for everything you do for us. Lead, guide, direct us from this place. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Sheriff, if you will, lead us in the pledge.
Would you please stand and face our flag? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated.
Thank you, Sheriff. Guys, y'all have had a chance to look over the minutes. John, I think you have a few changes that you'd like to recommend to the court.
Judge, I'd like to amend the amendment of the minutes. Judge Taylor said the prayer at the opening Berea meeting, not Kenny Barger, or not Kenny Davis.
Okay.
And also in resolutions 1932, the grant for Kit Carson Common Financial Agreement. It was a unanimous vote, yes. You got sustained by John Tudor and no by Larry Conte. It was
Okay.
unanimously voted yes on those.
And I made the corrections, Kenny, on mine, so we can use it as a
Okay.
guide.
All right.
All right, so we make sure we get it right. So, guys, are there any other changes? All right, I need a motion and a second to approve the minutes from our November the 12th, 2019 regular scheduled fiscal court meeting that was held in Berea.
Second?
I have a motion, second. Call the roll, please.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Buckin?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Thanks, guys. Thanks, John. Next, our treasurer's report. It's our fourth Tuesday of the month.
Good
Glenn,
morning.
good morning.
You had your treasurer's report in the Dropbox. It's also available to the public if anyone would like a copy of it. As of 10/31/2019, our total fund budget, and this fund budget is what is sitting in our checking accounts. This money is already allocated in our budget to be spent out. This is not reserves. Is $6,387,079.64. Our general fund revenues as of 10/31 are at 24.9%. Our expenditures are at 29.6%. Our road fund revenues are at 76.5%, and our expenditures are at 25.8%. Our jail fund revenues are at 33.7%. Our expenditures are at 37.9%. Our LGA fund is at 20.7 revenues and 0 expenditures. CSEP fund revenues are at 1.92%. Our expenditures are at 2.10. Our 911 fund, our revenues are at 28.9%. Our expenditures are at 24.5%. Our health fund, our revenues are at 35.2%. Our expenditures are at 15.4%. This morning, I also had you all sign off on our first transfer from our money market, which is our investments. We transferred $300,000 from our investments into our general fund, which then transferred into our jail fund to help pay the bills. So that is our first transfer out of our investments to help pay the bills on the jail.
Glenna, there's around a little over $2 million in that fund, in that money market.
There was $2,189,000 in the investments. $208,000 of that is marked for the animal shelter.
Is it donation?
Yes.
Yep.
So the rest of it is general fund investments, and that's what the $300,000 was taken out of.
So that'd be less than 2 million.
Yes. So we're probably down to like 1.6 million of available funds, monies in our investments to be used after this transfer.
So 300,000 out of 1,600,000 every couple of months is not gonna last very long.
No, not very long at all. It's gonna go down very quickly.
Anything else, guys? Thank you, Glenn. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Appreciate the report. Next is a proclamation. Is there anybody here representing the diabetes awareness? Okay, we wasn't sure if they were going to be able to make it or not. So this is a proclamation on recognizing Diabetes Awareness Month. Whereas diabetes is a serious health condition that causes high blood glucose, also called blood sugar, where the body is not able to make or effectively regulate its own insulin needed for energy. And whereas diabetes affects 30.3 million people a year, or 9.4% of the population in the United States, with 1.25 million of those being children. And whereas 1 in 4 individuals do not realize they have the disease, and whereas the American Diabetes Association encourages individuals to get involved in identifying signs of diabetes in themselves and their loved ones through taking a risk test, have a health screening, and by talking with your doctor. And whereas an increase in community awareness of the risk factors and symptoms related to diabetes can improve the likelihood that people with diabetes will seek proper medical attention for this serious disease. Now therefore, I, Reagan Taylor, Madison County Judge Executive, by the power vested in me as Madison County Judge Executive, and on behalf of the county magistrates and citizens of Madison County, do hereby recognize the month of November 2019 as Diabetes Awareness Month. Thank you. Next is a Veterans Day Award presentation. Emerson, it's all yours, buddy. Good to have you.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
The Vietnam Veterans Chapter is a 7-year-old organization for veterans. We're starting to grow, but we're also starting to drop because of our ages. We have several awards we are proud to present each year. The Eastern Kentucky ROTC is one. We also present awards to Madison Central and Madison Southern high schools each year to their junior ROTC. And this one today, this is our 3rd year that we presented to a deputy sheriff in the county who is also a veteran. I'd like to read this before we do the presentations. This is a certificate of appreciation to Captain Sam Manley. This certificate is awarded for the outstanding and continued community support he provides to the citizens of Madison County. His guidance and mentorship has been invaluable to the development of his fellow law enforcement officers. Captain Sam Manley has been employed with the Madison County Sheriff's Office for over 11 years. Previously, he served with and retired from the Richmond Police Department. Captain Manley carried that mentality. Served 26 years in the U.S. Army Reserve and retired as a first sergeant. He carried that mentality into his law enforcement career by taking care of others, just as he did in the armed forces. Sam Manley was also a drill instructor in the 100th Division. He was responsible for the safety and well-being of many recruits during his tenure. The Vietnam Veterans of America offers our thanks and appreciation to Captain Manley for a job well done. Your tremendous efforts reflect great credit upon the Sheriff's Department, Madison County, and the Commonwealth of Kentucky. This 26th day of November, 2019, in Richmond. If Captain Manley would like to come up. Let me be the first to salute you. Certificate. One more. This is the hard part here.
Sam, let me hold that while you take that over.
You want one in town?
Thanks again for what you do.
That's awesome.
We appreciate it.
Thanks, Sam.
Sam,
Sir?
this microphone's all yours.
Well, I don't have nothing to say, it's just other than
I say very little, but
That's a first.
it's been a pleasure and an honor to serve the country. And
and the county and the city that I live in. And I want to know again and again and again. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That's awesome. Proud of you, Sam. Thanks, Emerson. Did he already leave? Okay. That was the first two that he's ever gotten out here that fast, yeah. He must have had another point. Next is our county property ownership update. Colleen's gonna give us an update on all the property that the county owns. Thank you, Colleen, for being here today.
What you all, magistrates, both what you have in hard copy and what you can see on the screen, is going to be just a quick overview of the properties that we have ownership of. And before I start, I want to thank Billy Ackerman, who has been very patient with us as we've kind of cleaned up some of these records that had some inaccuracies. So what you're going to see on the screen are actual properties that Madison County owns. For those of the media, I'll give you copies of this as well. For the first, I'm just going to run through the list quickly, but if you all have questions, please let me know. Those that are in blue, the first 6, are going to be the 2 parcels that are the county annex. The next 3 are the 3 parcels that make up the detention center. The next parcel is our road department south on Clarksville Road. All of these are county offices that have county staff that are mandated by law to have, and that we are required to have ownership of. The next series of green are going to be our parking lots. I think it's important, a lot of people think that we just have parking for our employees, but in actuality, because we have an AOC lease, we are obligated to provide parking for all of those that are going to family court and circuit court, as well as transacting business with the county clerk and with the sheriff and with the PVA and those other individuals leasing our space. So those are not just employee parking lots, but general parking lots. The next 4 on the list are additional county offices. That's another parcel with Road Department South, and you're going to see where our fire station is on the back side of that parcel. Robbins Court is Road Department North. The next one is our animal shelter on Richmond Road. And the next one is the EOC building. For those that may have an old list, this previously was listed or had a previous listing from the PVA. This was inaccurately listed before as an EMS building, but it is actually our Emergency Operations Center.
Colleen, I think it'd be clear too, to make sure that people understand that, like on the parking lots, that's one parking lot when you see it.
Right.
But it's divided up into multiple lots.
That's correct.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. So if you look at the property locations, you're going to see that you're going to see a lot of properties that are adjacent. That is from where there were very narrow row lots where there used to be homes or businesses at one time. And so while those parcels, there are many in number, they're actually quite narrow and long. And so 5 parcels make up one parking lot for us. So when you see those, you can tell on the summary that describes actually what it is. So those first 2 are the back parking lots of the annex. The next set are the First Street parking lot, which is just one parking lot that has multiple. The sheriff's impound lot, where we hold vehicles that have been taken into custody. And then obviously our other parking lot that is on First Street. So that's a good point.
Thank you.
You're going to see that in a lot of these, same as the detention center. Those were where previously there were multiple parcels, and they just have not been created into one. They've remained as separate parcels. The next set of pink are going to be easements. These are what we're required by law when we do modifications to a road, especially when we have state road projects. If we widen a road, there's always going to be extra land on left and right as easements that we're required to, have to acquire. And so all of the ones that you're going to see here are portions of easements on roadways. They are, even though they seem like 1.54 acres is a lot, when you figure you're doing on each side of the road and for the length of the road construction, it actually is not a parcel of 1 acre on its own. Next page, Ryan. If you see it in green, it's going to be things that are related to our golf course. And so we have 2 easements that it's actually a portion of body of water that enters into the lake. It's our access to the lake. We're required to have that access because we have to chemically treat the body of water on the golf course property. And so those two properties are, again, quite small in nature, and they are part of the golf course. The next one is ending in 0003, is the only one that we have on here that is a flood zone. It's a 25 acre, but it's important to know that under FEMA rules, it's restricted. You cannot construct anything on it. We are currently in the process of working with Madison County, Madison United Soccer Association, to try to convert this into additional soccer fields, and we are waiting on FEMA approval. Just to give everyone a sense of how long that takes, we are on our 7th month of merely asking if kids can play on this property, which is an empty lot of grass. And so that process of going through the federal government takes time, and we're going through that right now. You can exchange that land to a governmental entity, but they have to still maintain the same restricted use of no construction on that property. The next set are also county-related buildings. We have the Chase Bank building, which we're going to talk about in the future, which is a consolidated project with CSEP, which is going to be a consolidated project with CSEP. We have the Family Court building, which is leased by the Administrative Office of the Courts, so we actually receive income from that property. The former Ferris Park building, which is on the corner, that also is leased to the Commonwealth Attorney and state-mandated drug court, so we receive money for that property. The courthouse, which is on the National Registry of Historic Places, is our property. We also lease this to AOC. We're required by law to provide space for the county clerk who's in here. We do have CASA, which resides in this property, and then our custodial team is housed out of the basement of this building. And that custodial team services all of our county properties that you see on this list. We have the former Planning and Codes building, and Billy Ackerman's working on a clean address on the PVA site right now. And that right now is being rented to the Commonwealth of Kentucky for a program that they house out of there. They actually were going to be relocated back to Lexington, and we negotiated, if the court doesn't remember, we negotiated to move all of our staff into the annex building, which allowed us to lease this and keep those employees here in Madison County, which was a win for everyone all around. The next two, the Rogers House, which is the Battlefield Visitor Center. It goes by many names, Quarters 29, Roger Tribble, Battlefield Visitor Center. There are federal monies in this property, so it is not sellable. There are a number of properties that we have that have historic money in them, whether it be civil trust money or historic properties money. Those have very tight restrictions on them and are not sellable. And they also are required to maintain a certain level of historic integrity. And so you have to do historic-related events and activities on those properties. And we'll go through some more of those. Pleasant View House, another one that was acquired. That's a 61-acre tract. Again, that has federal monies in it. The only way that you could take it off of your list if another governmental entity, a nonprofit, not a nonprofit corp, but actual governmental entity ended up being interested in that property. And then the final one is the Battlefield site, which is about 300 acres. It also is protected by federal monies. All of those protections came into place before this administration. Those were predetermined, and that is where we see the Battle of Richmond, all of
Is
those
that-
properties.
Excuse me, is that in the Battlefield site?
It is.
Is that in their deed, not the county?
Yeah, they have a historic easement. Say that again, it's in the county's name. All these properties are in the county's name.
But they own,
No, we own it. We own it.
but it's not.
It has
them.
a historic easement, so it's protected.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can have recreational easements, transportation easements, historic easements, all have different rules and regulations that go with them. All of these historic properties have highly stringent historic preservation rules on them. And
Well,
so
that's the part that we lease out.
we lease out this 300 acres. It is so that we don't mow. So it is basically in exchange for us not mowing. We have someone who mows it and then sells the hay. That was a bidded project as well. All of our properties that have anyone doing work on them are done by bid. So the next set are going to be public access points. The first four are tower sites that we have for CSEP. And so CSEP is actually requires ownership of these, and that's how you're notified, or not only just of events, but this is also some of these are our larger towers that are signaling for our radio systems. The next two are going to be boat ramps. That's at College Hill and Poozy Ridge. Those are boat ramps entering into the Kentucky River. This is an arrangement that is with the Commonwealth of Kentucky and has been a long-standing relationship. Many counties have these that are on the river. Allows an access point. We do maintain, as part of that arrangement, we do maintain the gravel lots that are leading into those. And I believe, I'm going off memory, but I think it's about a 30-year before it's a renewable option. The next two, we have 2 lots that are outside of Battlefield Estates on General Nelson Drive. They look like they're lots that are eligible to be built on, but in actuality, they were acquired with Civil War trust funds. These are the 2 properties that are next to Mount Zion Church, which is also on the historic registry. And so these are not able to be sold, and they are not able to be developed. They are sheerly maintained. Next page. The next series is a set of pieces of land that are on our golf course. There's a variety of ways in which we have golf course parcels. Just so everyone knows the history of the golf course was constructed as part of the subdivision. Then it had its own sewer access on that land. The county then purchased it under a previous administration in order to have access for that sewer, to be able to provide sewer service extended. And with that came many parcels and pieces of property. Some are on the golf course proper, some are on the golf course parking lot, and some are some random lots that are around the golf course. And so we'll go through those now. The first set on the top 2 are going to be golf course greens, and those are just lots that are on the actual golf course. We'll keep going through the green ones as we go. But for the next list, it's in light blue. This is actually a former school. Many people don't realize this, but prior to having boards of education, Madison County Fiscal Court ran the school system. And so we have, most of our schools were transferred over, but you're going to see a few schools on this list that were never transferred over or weren't transferred due to bonding. Waco Elementary is an example of one of those schools that's actually right now owned by the Fiscal Court. This former school, which is a one room schoolhouse, is on New Road. It is eligible. It's on a half acre of land on New Road, and that is what that property is right there. The pink one, we have a lot next to Mount Zion Church. It used to have a house on it. It was also built or taken over with the intention of adding it to the historic portion. It does not have any historic protections on it, but it is my understanding from talking to our historic preservation team that the intent of that was to have a walking path that had a full connectivity from Battlefield to Mount Zion Church as part of our historic properties program or historic park program. The next ones on the list are also going to be lots that are on the golf course green. We have a few lots that weren't developable nor had access points via road. They actually serve as a hole right now. They look like parcels on the PVA's website, but they are literally a hole on the green of the golf course. And so that's the ones that are identified as golf course greens. Those are actually on the actual golf course on a hole. They just look like parcels of land. We also have a block that is the parking lot. It is you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, at least on this sheet, of properties that are parking lot. Those are actually look in the PVA's website as parcels. They are technically parcels, but they are undevelopable for housing due to the slope and the grade, and have been a parking lot and where all of those individuals who golf at the golf course park. It's a paved parking lot. I will say that the picture that was on the PVA's website for a long time showed a house, and so a lot of people were confused that we had houses on this property. That has since been corrected. If you were to look at that, the accurate depiction, Billy has updated that for us, and we appreciate that. The next one is Will Green Lake. Will Green Lake actually has a dam that's managed by the Army Corps of Engineers, and so we do own Will Green Lake. The next one is a rental house. It is one of those pieces of property that were acquired with the purchase of the golf course. Under the previous administration and through the term of a contract, there have historically been tenants in this property as a rental house. And we do not have any tenants at this rental house, nor do we own any other rental property where we have residential tenants in there. This is a vacant site at the moment. We had considered this as a possible relocation site for our animal shelter. We have now decided not to do that due to the location and how close it is to the residents in that area, but that had been under consideration, which is why we have held on to it for a while. There is a historic easement and a recreational easement that runs through the front of that property.
Does it come all the way out to 421?
Yes, it
Well, it's
does.
actually, right now, it's on
One lot?
it's one 20-acre section that includes the house and
Behind?
some behind and some out to the left if you're facing.
And so a lot of people who walk that is basically where the circle, basically it looks like an eye of a needle from an aerial perspective. That's where that walking path does this turnaround when you're walking from Battlefield Park.
I had no idea there's 20 acres in there.
Yeah. The house is fenced off, so a lot of people think that it's just that property, but it's the actual whole 20
That's the
acres.
Bedford Stone House, right?
Mm-mm.
No,
No, it's just a white brick though. It
Well,
is-
Oh, sorry.
it's- Okay,
Yeah,
it's white brick.
Yeah, it's not Bedford Stone.
Right,
Yeah.
I know what you're saying.
The next one is Union City Park. And so we own that park. We do have other parks that we lease, but we do not, for example, Kirksville Park. We lease Kirksville Park from the Kirksville Community Center. A lot of people have asked us if we own that. We do not own Kirksville Park. The next one is Whitehall Park. Whitehall Park actually has land and water money in it, which is a National Park Service money, which makes this a restricted access. We also have an agreement with the Bennetts who deeded that to us to require that to be recreational land. And so there are a significant number of restrictions. I've asked about if we could sell or build on Whitehall Park to the Department for Local Government, and they sent a response to me in writing that it takes about 4 years and a lot of money to do a conversion. And so that's something, if there's any interest in that, we could talk about, but it is not something that they would recommend. There are a couple of examples of communities that have struggled with the conversion in Jefferson County and in northern Kentucky. Again, we're back to golf course parking lots. Next page. Again, golf course parking lots. The final three, Kirksville Fire Department, this is actually an error, and Billy is going to be correcting this for us. The deed, it's actually not in our name. It says on the website it's in our name, but it is actually not. So that will be cleaned out. God's Outreach was actually taken off our books at our last court meeting. It was the conclusion of our CDBG, and we transferred it to them for the required amount. And so that, once the deed is turned over to Billy, that will be taken off the list. And the final one is Waco Elementary School. We have Waco Elementary School in our name because back in the 80s, if you were going to do a bond, as they did to do this project, you had to put it back in the court's name. And so we are in the process of working with the Board of Education to switch that back over to Madison County School.
You'll flip the lights back on, Sheriff, please. Thank you.
That's all I've got.
Thank you, Colleen. Thanks for the update. Thanks for your due diligence in this spreadsheet and doing all the research that you've done. It was a challenge, wasn't it, trying to find all these properties and the right name, and so we appreciate it. Guys, y'all have any questions? I think this gives us some options of looking in our future about selling some property. Is there any tasks or is there anything y'all would like to discuss at this time?
Judge, I think we've got limited options on what we can actually disperse there, and what we do have, I'm not really willing to give up any of that property at this time. I don't think the public will see it. It was mentioned that we sell some property, but I don't think we have anything really marketable that could make any kind of huge cash flow.
Well, I think, Counselor, we can go into executive session if we want to discuss sale of property. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, before we get into too much detail, obviously you don't want to talk about what you would sell or how much you'd sell it for and that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a statutory process we'll have to go through for
Right.
the sale of property. We won't just be able to
Right.
list the property.
That's right, yeah.
Well, the one house up there.
Are y'all interested in going into executive session today to discuss?
Yeah, I am.
Yes.
Tom? So if we are, I need a motion and a second to go into executive session.
Second.
Yeah. So there's a motion and a second. All right. Call the roll, please.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Bucking?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Berger?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. John, did you say, who said? Tom? Tom second. Call the roll, please.
Master Bucking?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Berger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. No action was taken in executive session. We are going to bring back the next court date, a list of properties that the fiscal court will vote on to sell. So, next is second reading of ordinance 1918 for land use change for 1194 Goggins Lane. It's 22.4 acres from UC 7 to UC 1. Good morning, Bert. Appreciate you being here today.
So just to remind everybody, this is the ordinance to change from UC 7 agriculture to UC 1 single family. The planning commission had the following findings of fact and recommendations to the court. That the proposed land use map amendment is in conformity with the comprehensive plan for the following reasons. The comprehensive plan encourages smart growth and growth within the urban corridor. The subject property is within the urban corridor. The subject property has access to sewer, water, and transportation, which make it amenable to smart growth as being encouraged in the urban corridor. The proposed land use map amendment would provide for the array of housing options encouraged within the urban corridor by the comprehensive plan. That single-family residential use is in conformity with the use of the surrounding property, and giving the availability of water and sewer should be encouraged in this area. And that the legitimate concerns of the opponents of this proposed land use map amendment may still be addressed in the site development phase of the project. This was a unanimous motion to recommend approval from the fiscal court, or from the planning commission to the fiscal court.
Okay, thank you, Bert. This is a second reading. This was advertised publicly and correctly by KRS statute.
Be a better question for your office.
Do I have a motion and a second for ordinance 19, second reading of ordinance 1918 for land use change for 1194 Goggins Lane, 22.4 acres from UC 7 to UC 1?
So moved.
So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I would like to have seen a few more acres for houses, but I know they're not interested in doing that.
I did get some emails, Judge, addressing this for folks that I assumed that just lived around in that general area, and looked at the property and looked at their concerns as well. And one of the issues was down at the bridge down below the hill, that there's some water issues down there, but that water issue down at the foot of that hill is not from that creek. It's from how water lays on top of that bridge up there.
Okay.
Is there a detention pond have to be built on the
Yeah,
site?
that'll be part of the site development phase of it.
There's no more comments from the magistrates. Everybody good? Is there any public comment at this time?
Yes,
Sure. Rod, come on up. If you don't care to, Rod, identify yourself, please,
Yes, sir.
and where you live.
good to see you guys. I live at 501 Pasofino Drive. That's at the bottom of
We need you to
Goggins.
state your name for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry.
please.
Yeah, that helps. I'm not Pasofino Drive, by the way. I'm Rod Mobley. I work for Century 21 here in town, been there for over 15 years. I live on Goggins Lane, off from Goggins, right there at Brookline. First house actually on the left when you turn in on Brookline. So first I'd like to, just 2 points. And I want you all to know, because you all should have the information at hand, because Frankfurt, I know, did contact you all. I was in your office on Friday. Beverly? Is that her name? Anyway,
Colleen is in my office.
no, look, when you walk in your office, first people to the left there that handle your flood certs.
Oh, Megan.
Megan, sorry. Bad names. I think I have part-timers sometimes, guys. At any rate, so I went to Frankfurt. I spoke to Frankfurt after the planning and zoning, totally except for Alan Hatfield, said, yes, let's go for it. Because of the 2015, and I understand the 2015 guys completely. I'm with Building Richmond, okay? But when we look at the 2015 rule and development, you have to look at what happens with the environment. If we're going to start, just starting with the roads, if we're going to start putting in multi-units there, then I'm 8 to 10 minutes on I-75 off exit 87 trying to get to the light with a mile of traffic on I-75. It's deadly. The roads, you all know, if any of y'all go out there, Chick-fil-A holds up one line. We're going to have double roads all the way to Goggins. And we need, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Rod. When you say multiple units, what are you?
Housing units.
Okay.
Homes and apartments, because, you know, the apartments are going to add a lot more. And let's, I mean, all facts are out here, guys. Everybody knows this. Bill Ramsey's looking across the road to do the same thing. That's fine. All this building is great. But we've got to extend, if we're going to do Hamburg, we've got to extend our roads out. And I'm worried about I-75. It's terrible. When I addressed that part with the Department of Transportation, folks, I went to the Department of Transportation and I went to flood cert because of what zoning did. None of these people did anything yet. This was because how zoning voted this through, because the city didn't do it. The Department of Transportation says, yes, it happens. When they located the people here, it happens every once in a while. It happens 2 to 3 times a day. The traffic is ungodly, and poor people going down Barnes Mill Road that are coming towards Meyer with all those beautiful homes, they set in traffic because they don't even have a turn lane to make a left down Goggins. Going on to the water. So I contacted Frankfurt. They got a hold of the Department of Flooding. And amazingly enough, just like a lot of us talked about, because we walked the mall, when they did the water trail, Reagan, excuse me, Judge, the flooding is absolutely 100% coming from the Richmond Center because they did not put in the retention that Mr. Eads showed. There's no retention. The water map draws, whoop, right to the Richmond Center. Now, in talking to Frankfurt about this, they say, hey, this is a local matter, but this is not a flooding, this is drainage. We have 11 more acres to build at that $22 million Richmond Center yet. So we're going to get double the water. We're within 4 foot of penetrating all of Percheron, and we're going 375 foot breaching all the way down Goggins Lane. We need you guys, and you know what? You all got dealt a bad hand with wanting money for jails and less than $2 million in the bank. This is ridiculous. But y'all gonna have to fight with the city, and you guys, somebody forgot to get that retention center in. And Goggins Lane and this property you're buying is gonna get double the water. It's coming. It is hitting that culvert so hard and crossing over where the lady says she hydroplanes, Mr. Bodkins, it's hitting it so hard that in the middle of the yard, water shoots up and makes a pond. It's coming from my home. There's my pictures right there of the water and how they just turned them on. If you look, this is the new bridge on Cardinal that you all just built. It's already up to the bridge. If that doubles, we're in trouble. Is there another one? Keep going. You can see all the water. Look at this here. It's already went into these folks' yard now. Keep going. This is just me and my car. Look at this water here, you all. This is unreal. These are people in subdivisions that aren't going to be able to get out soon. Keep going. Look at this. I want you to see the houses that are affected by this. We have 12 to 19 homes that, God bless them. Here we go. Right here. Just stop that just a second. Look at that. That's on Percheron. How many feet do we have left? And my engineer, it's not that much now. We got a bigger problem, sir. We have Frankfurt involved, and they gave me this map and looked at this. These people, look at that, would you? That's our yards. We can't handle 1 cup of water until all of this all this problem gets solved. And not just your retentions go in, sir. You've got a piece of property that's got a lot of water going through it.
You're talking to me like.
Or whoever it is. Okay, I'm sorry. Whoever it is. You're sir, I guess. I don't know where your property owner.
Not today,
Okay.
not today.
At any rate, who knows? But before anybody builds on this, folks, we're going to have to put retentions. We're going to have to make the Richmond Center do their job. And if we're going to, bring on the people. I'd love to see $150,000 and $2,000 homes. I'm a real estate agent. They're not here anymore. People have to do a lot of work to them. Haven't moved to Richmond. We need homes bad. But we've got a really bad water issue, and it's coming for us. And I wish you all would recognize it. Send this back to zoning and tell them to get it done right and bring it back to you, because this is not right. I appreciate your all's time. And
Thank
one
you,
more
Rob.
thing. I always like to say something good. I appreciate what you all done in buying First Street. That was a great business move. Like I said, I know you've been handled a bad deck of cards, and it sucks. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it. Anybody else?
Can I just make
Sure, I got one more. Do you want to go?
No, go
You want to go now?
no, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. I'm not much of a public speaker, but.
That's
I'm gonna
okay.
try.
You don't have to.
Thomas Prophet, and I live at
You
230.
did better than Rod. You got the first part right. You said your name.
Live at 237 Percheron in Brookline subdivision there. Have to look at Rob every time I come in and out of the subdivision, so. Condolences. Ed wrote down a few things this morning, just summarizing, you got your stormwater, that's always a big issue. And it's not necessarily the amount of water that's falling from the sky. So when you develop these parcels and you make hard surfaces, parking lots, driveways, city streets, sidewalks, curb and gutter, and you put the water in pipes and try to take it away, the velocity has increased so high that you practically have no resistance factor. And that is going to be a substantial problem. And the problems we have now, as Rod mentioned, is retention practically non-existent in that creek, and it's pretty much a blue line stream. And besides that fact, we've got runoff from the interstate. There's a pipe that comes in to that property from the interstate. That's a problem everybody recognizes, and I just wanted to tie the amount of runoff, or the speed of the runoff. The amount stays the same, it's the speed that increases. By putting high-density housing in there, and by your all's definition of your R2, your maximum units per acre is 6. And they're asking for 14, which is over double. You're going to go from 100 and something, or 200 and something units. I didn't have it keep in front of me. You're going to go from 144 units to 240 units. And, 240 units is 6 per acre. And then if you go to 14 units per acre, could possibly go up to 560 units per acre. At the R1, which we need R1 housing, or U7, whatever, single-family residential housing. The county's short on that. My son looked for a couple of years before he found acceptable or reasonable priced units. You have rundown single housing family, and you have what I call rich people single family housing. A lot of the newer units are, or newer homes are fairly expensive homes. But subdivisions like Brookline, the one next door to us, I can't even think of the name of it now, but those are houses that are, they're not starter homes, but they're midlife homes, I call them, people that, and retirement homes. I moved up here to retire. And I've been up here almost 12 years now. And what I've noticed is in mainly my background is highway construction and road work. And I've noticed a whole lot of problems on Goggins. Got passed by a pickup truck pulling a trailer coming down the turn lane. Passed me and the car in front of us and kept on trucking until he was out of sight. And we were running 40 miles an hour. Goggins Lane is going to have to be improved with ingress and egress for the existing subdivisions and future subdivisions, with the addition of possibly right turn lanes where the sidewalks are now, and a right turn lane into the major thoroughfares coming in and out of Goggins Lane. The entrances we have now, if you stick your nose out, you are in traffic. And the turn lanes, of course, they fill up and stack up, people trying to get in and out. And that cuts you down on being able to see and first one thing and another. And it is getting extremely dangerous. I sat, seemed like for 10 minutes. I know it probably wasn't that long, but wife and I run out of something to talk about. Of course, that's not unusual. But we sit there and wait. You get 75 traffic coming south. You get residential and traffic going north. And we need maintenance of that road is going to be a concern. It was built pre-1996, which is, it's getting up towards 25 years. The road's never been, the pavement markings have never been redone on that road. You can't see them. They're non-existent at night. And I noticed a lot of signage is bent and damaged. I can't remember seeing maybe one designation for the middle lane being a turn lane only. And it doesn't have near many turn arrows, designated turn arrows as what's recommended by the manual on uniform traffic. But I just wanted to bring up those few things, and the increased hard surface you have is going to make our drainage worse. It's will be increased somewhat by even single housing, but single housing will be much less. You're talking 140, 240 units versus 560.
Yeah.
So that I just wish y'all would take that into consideration, because it is a big concern.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. There is one clarification I want to make that you, and Bert, you'll have to help me out on this, is the fiscal court several years ago changed the urban areas for multifamily to a higher density.
Right.
It's no longer 6. So I want to make sure that y'all understand that. And that density was taken from the city of Richmond's density, I believe, at 14.2 per acre. So you could be looking at a old reg. You could be looking at the old language of that reg. But that's been several years ago that we changed that, I think. A year and a half.
I think it was last year.
Last year. Yeah, there's been an amendment to that reg since, in the,
13.
yeah, since
That's right.
13. So just know, and Bert can help you know the right language if you
Yeah,
need
well,
that.
The number of houses you put per acre,
I
you
understand.
increase, you know,
It doesn't change your thought process. I just want to make sure that you know that that reg has been changed.
right,
Yeah.
but I guess the point I was trying to make is we need to stick to the regs, but if they've been changed.
Yeah, they have, and I just want to make sure that you understood that, not thinking that we're letting somebody buy with something. Yeah.
And you had met the city regs, and, but, their, that R3 is a different, that's the only thing that ever been discussed, but the city was R2,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you.
and the city had approved
Thank
single
you.
housing.
I got a question for Bert.
Okay.
Do you know if anything on Cardinal Drive in that area down through there on the left-hand side going toward Tate's Creek's in the flood zone?
Yeah, some of the pictures he was showing, some of that overflowing of the creek that you see, that area is designated as flood zone, as a high hazard flood zone.
It flooded in 2010?
Those pictures are probably pretty recent, weren't they, Rob?
Those they
Yeah.
were, but you know what? Frankfurt says no, it's not.
It's not what?
It's not a flood zone. You got the letter in your office from official.
I know FEMA's been changing, not to break in, but FEMA has been changing flood
Yeah.
zones, and they're extremely different from what they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Tommy, any
learned
other
that
questions?
first- We learned that firsthand, didn't we?
Yeah. Tommy, any other questions for Bert?
No.
Yes, ma'am. How you doing? Good.
Hi, my name is Amanda West. I live on Palomino 317. I just moved here last year with my family from Los Angeles. So we come from a very dense population where we know that housing is critical and we understand the need for multifamily housing. But when we looked in Richmond, we looked off Lancaster and there was a really nice subdivision, but what deterred us was it was sandwiched in between a trailer park and apartments. I have a background in mortgages and real estate. I did real estate in Los Angeles. And so when we looked here and we bought our house, we're like, oh, this is great. We have a cow pasture in our backyard. You know, we've got open space. Our home value, we're making an investment. That's what we looked for. Well, my dreams came crashing down when they're like, oh, we're going to put apartments on Goggins. No, this is what we tried to avoid. We wanted to maintain our property values. We saw that there's growth in Richmond because we looked in Lexington and we looked in Richmond. You get so much more value for your money here. And my main concern with the apartments is the value to our homes because not only are you opening that lot up for apartments, there's 196 acres across the street for sale. And then there's, like I said, there's a huge farm behind our house that potentially could be developed on. And it makes me nervous for our schools, for our roads, for my kids. Mm-hmm. I did a pedophile check, you know, when I see registered sex offenders in our neighborhood. Not one on Goggins at all. They congregate in multifamily housing. Not only if we develop and put multifamily homes closer, we open our kids up to more traffic, to more violence. And I just want you all to think how it affects us as a community and not just the city of Richmond. And I mean, I'm for growth. Like I said, I'm from Los Angeles, where there is a need for multifamily homes there.
And right now, I don't want to cut you off, but this ordinance,
And I'm sorry, and I have
this
to go
ordinance
before
doesn't have anything to do with multifamily because this is the
I gotta
residential
go pick up my
ordinance.
kid. I'm sorry, I was trying to wait.
No, it's okay.
and-
I just want to make sure that
I know
on
for
record.
five, for bulletin 5 for the 39.6. I apologize. But I have to run and
Yep.
grab my kids. So I just want you to think how it affects us as a community, like Goggins and you know the other issues that were brought up today.
Yep. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Scott.
Judge, to the comment of the gentleman that talked about the universe traffic control, we have just last year spent with the state about 3 months on the entire length of Goggins Lane. All signage is to the code. The state actually spent $6,000 on that project. and all the signage is correct, and all the lane mergers are correct, and every sign on Goggins has been approved by the state of Kentucky.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. Appreciate that. Mike?
My name is Mike Eves. I'm an attorney in Richmond, and I'm here representing the property owner, the applicant for this property, and it's the intended purchaser and developer of the property. This has already gone through a public hearing before the Planning Commission. I'm not here to rehash everything they considered and all the evidence and exhibits that were introduced. I'm here, number one, to answer any questions you might have. And I just want to respond very, very briefly to just a couple of the things that you've just heard. First, at the meeting with the Planning Commission, this issue about Richmond Center's retention pond or non-existent retention area came up, and I responded that in fact it was there. And if I may, that's a photograph of what's there. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
And it's at the very end of the paved portion of the shopping center in the very back. I knew the engineer who designed it. I remember when they built it. I represented Richmond Center when they developed that property. I can't tell you how big it is. It's 3 to 5 acres probably. It's a very large. Now, I'm not an engineer. Whether it's doing what it was designed to do, I can't say. But there is a detention area there, and if there's some problem with that, I understand that issue has not been taken up with the city, which is who would have jurisdiction over the operation of that. The other thing about capacity, there have been some insinuation both this morning and at the Planning Commission that the developer intended to build 14.25 units per acre, and that's not so. What has been proposed all along has been duplexes. The 14.25 units per acre comes from your ordinance, same as the cities, and that's just what's allowed. The other very important thing to remember is that's what you can build if the world were flat. I promise you, Richmond, Madison County is not flat. The fact that your ordinance permits me to build a certain density on a piece of flat land is not the least bit indication of how many units I can actually build on this property, because it can't be flattened. It won't be. There's too many. If you've seen this property, it's fairly irregular, it's rough, there are drainage areas that are there now that will have to stay there. So the other thing is, this is just zoning. This is not for the development of the property. There are lots of other things, hoops that have to be jumped through, stormwater studies done, retention areas engineered, developed, as to where those would be located. All those issues, and as to an actual layout of the property. One of the things the Planning Commission insists on, and I tried not to supply it, but they insist on a design, a potential design, and that is really a bunch of lines on a flat piece of paper. It's simply something they ask for. There's been no engineering done. If you ask me how many lots there will be on this property, I have no idea. Not gonna know that until the engineering has actually been done. We're not there yet. We're not at that point. We don't have a project. We have to have it rezoned first, then we do all that engineering, then we go back to the Planning Commission, and they approve all that. So we're just not there yet. This is not about development. This is just about zoning. So with that, do you have any questions?
Mike,
Court members?
Yes,
John?
I'd just like to say, first off, I feel like this is close enough to city limits. This was a decision that city planning and zoning board should have made and not been handed down to the county. But since it is, I feel like that you've just discussed enough and made the point that all this has to be approved by the site development plan.
Yes, sir.
Which will go before the planning and zoning committee. And, you know, if some of these, the traffic issues and the flooding issues are addressed and brought back, you know, I can see it might be approved.
Anybody else?
Whatever concerns we got with this, it goes out the window when we vote because it's up to the planning and development. No matter what's said here today, what concerns we have or for or against, this is our last vote. I mean, I just want people to know that as well as planning and zoning. And we're expecting them to do the right thing with this development, hoping they'll do the right thing. But 10 years down the road, it's us that gets the phone calls. They'll never call planning and development because there's too much water running across the ditch line or there's too many people on the road for the traffic to go everywhere. And that's my main concern.
Well,
Just my opinion.
as I've indicated, that your ordinances provide a pretty extensive set of requirements concerning stormwater retention and all that, and the developer has to comply with that. I'm not an engineer. I have to assume that the ordinances that are in place are adequate for their purpose. And if the developer is required to abide by those, and they should, then I have to trust that the proper result is achieved.
One of the things I want to make sure that from a county standpoint, you know, we can't control stormwater and what was inspected inside the city limits, because we don't govern inside the city limits. What we have to make sure is that our planning members and the engineers that do develop and developers develop in the county, that we make sure that when they're putting their infrastructure in, that it's done in an adequate manner that doesn't affect somebody downstream. You know, a lot of the water problems that we have in the county predate a lot of these stormwater rules and regulations that you have to follow, which is what causes our banks to get out of line. And it affects us in the county because, right, it ends, a lot of this water
All these
ends.
developments we're talking about have no storm water retention
Right.
mechanisms in place. I mean,
And so we have to make sure, which I think we do have good rules and regs in our reg books for subdivision developing that accommodate and hold that storm water and let it seeps out to our streams instead of it just running and gushing. So which again goes back to the point with that really doesn't have anything to do with the zone change.
Yes, sir.
Because somebody could ask for this zone change today and it stay this way for 30 years.
If they can't meet the requirements for
Right.
all those things.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
So, all right, thank you. Anything else, guys? Well, at this time, we had a motion and we had a second, correct? Clerk Barger? Yes. All right.
Mr. Combs?
And so now we'll call the roll, but you can go ahead.
Clerk Barger, trying to confuse
Yes.
me. Master Barger?
Yes, again.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
I'll get caught up. Master Bucket?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Okay, thank you. Next is second reading for ordinance 1919. This is a land use change for 1194 Goggins Lane, 39.6 acres from UC 7 to UC 2.
Yes, and this property
Bert.
is, adjacent to the property that you just voted on. Findings of fact to recommend this zone change from UC 7 agriculture to UC 2 multifamily are that the proposed land use map amendment is in conformity with the comprehensive plan for the following reasons. The comprehensive plan encourages smart growth and growth within the urban corridor. The subject property is within the urban corridor. The subject property has access to sewer, water, and transportation, which make it amenable to smart growth as being encouraged in the urban corridor. The proposed land use map amendment would provide for the array of housing options encouraged within the urban corridor by the comprehensive plan. That the multifamily residential use is in conformity with the use of the surrounding property, the topography, and unique position of the land, and given the availability of water and sewer, should be encouraged in this area. And that the property was particularly suited to multifamily housing, given its topography and location access to infrastructure. And that the legitimate concerns of the opponents of this proposed land use map amendment may still be addressed in the site development process. This recommendation was a 6-to-1 recommendation by the Planning Commission to recommend to approve the zone change.
Okay. Thank you, Bert. Do I have a motion and a second? on the second reading of ordinance 1919, this land use change for 1194 Goggins Lane, 39.6 acres from UC 7 to UC 2.
So moved.
Have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Now time for discussion.
I would like to request that the Planning and Zoning Board look into the issues that we've discussed today about the widening of the road, some of the retention ponds needed, and the water runoff issues before this.
And they will, John, that'll be part of the site development process. What you have to remember is this, you're looking at, what is it, 82 acres, close to 90 acres, that's not being controlled at all right now. There's no control on it. So with this development, those controls will come into place. There's the potential there that this could help people downstream, because you've got water right now that's being unchecked.
Right.
That as part of this development will be checked. So that's,
And there's a DRT group that meets too, as part of this development review team.
right.
That meets to, looks into a lot of those, that takes in the traffic patterns and all that
Road,
kind of
fire,
stuff.
police,
Right.
everybody's on that DRT, and they all get together in a room and throw the plan out on the table and say, what concerns do you have? And we try to address them before it even gets to the planning commission. And then the planning commission is just another set of eyes to look at it.
And someone also look into the issue that possibility the retention pond behind the shopping center is not working properly. Make sure that's in
I'm not
place.
sure I have any dog in that fight. That's a city issue, and you know, that's something that maybe this developer, this engineer will have to look at as part of his calculations. Again, I'm not an engineer either, but I would think they have to take all that into consideration. So if there's water coming off Richmond Center onto this property, they're gonna have to account for that as well.
Right, we should have somebody, you know, checking on these retention ponds after they're built, make
Yeah.
sure they're operating properly.
The, one of the questions I've got, Bert, do we require, you know, is there any kind of guarantee that the county has, when we go through this process with like detention ponds, making sure that engineers' calculations are correct? Do we?
There's some checks and balances if we think we need to use them, but at the end of the day, I think that engineer puts his stamp on that plan. And that's just like anybody else would have errors and omissions or insurance to cover mistakes that might be made. That's part of their certification, part of what their requirements to be able to stamp a set of plans like that entails.
Okay.
And then there's a lot of times when these retention ponds are put in, they're never revisited.
Until you have a
I've
problem.
had that- I've had
Until you
that
have a problem though, but you gotta remember, we've got retention and detention ponds all over this county.
Yeah.
That must be working fine because we're not getting any complaints on them. I know Willie and them have to go out and clean them out every now and then sometimes, but for the most part, you don't hear much about them until there's a problem. And most of the time, when we have a problem with one now, it's something that was built before we even had planning and zoning in the
You're
county.
correct, I agree.
So we're kind of playing catch up, but we're catching up.
You think 80 acres of grassland is gonna run more water off than houses and streets?
I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying anything that does run off that property is supposed to be checked at the same rate pre-development. So it certainly wouldn't be any worse if it's built right.
Well, it'd probably be directed in another direction.
Could be. They could put detention, they could put retention, they could put both. I mean, I don't know what the plan is for that. I know our regs say you can't lose any more water from that property at any greater rate than you did pre-development.
Well, the problem there is, when I go to the Valley View Ferry, after the center was built, it drastically changed the flow of water when it rained.
Yeah.
Well, we've added houses on top of houses since then, so that's just adding to it.
Yeah.
It's, I don't care how much you hold it back, there's still some water adding to what was already more than we needed. Of course, that's the city that built that, and care less. If it's gonna
You said
run
that
it
many
up,
times,
let
Roger.
let us take care of
Yeah.
it. City just dumps all the water out of the city goes through the county before it gets to where it's going. So,
Yep. And it all goes to the ferry,
that's right.
or a lot of it.
Yeah,
At least that portion of that watershed does anyway.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else?
All right, any other comments from masters before we take public comments? At this time, this is a second reading, which has been advertised. There is allowed public comment. I know that we've had a lot of discussion in the first ordinance because, you know, these two pieces of property are really ultimately the same, two different. But I do want to open it up for if there's other topics or other conversation with this, please get up at this time. Brock?
Again, my name is Rod Mobley. I live on Pasofino Drive. I'll get it right the second time.
It's good.
Folks, that's why I call Frankfurt. I needed to know. We're seeing a lot of water. I've been there 16 years. We've got people been there 40. We've got over a $300,000 property for sale. Then nobody buy it because it floods. We've got an Episcopalian church at the end now, or they built a pond, you all. It filled in one day. The water issue is real. That's why I called Frankfurt. And you all have a map of how the water went and how it goes right to the Richmond building. Now, if Mr. Eads is correct, which I've walked everything, and if it's there, then it's dry as a bone and not working. Because the trail shows exactly to the pinpoint where it's exiting the Richmond Center. And the creek above it that flows, that was a normal flow, and how that joins. But the bright yellow-blue line that's causing us all the trouble with water flooding shows, and it goes right to the Richmond Center. Please consider this. It's 12 to 19 properties that's going to be affected by this, including my own. Thank you all.
Thank you. Anybody else this time? Mike?
If you consider the language of the Planning Commission in their motion, I respectfully suggest they have already considered all the things, Mr. Tudor, that you're asking that they consider. To be as clear as I could be, on behalf of the purchaser of the property, the owner of the property, the potential developer of the property, we object to being required to go out and spend tens of thousands of dollars trying to justify a project we don't have. Your processes, I appear from the city all the time, and I'm fond of telling the city, if you don't like what your ordinances say, change them. But your ordinances, the process is that we apply for a zoning change, and then there's a rather elaborate process that occurs after that, before we can build, where we can build, what we can build, how it can be built, all the infrastructure changes that can or will not be approved. Your process says that we go get an engineer, we submit through we get approvals for utilities, we do all the stormwater studies, we do all those things and submit those to the Planning Commission. And that's your process, and that's the process that we're proposing to follow. Respectfully, I suggest that if we did literally what you're suggesting and we send it back to the Planning Commission and ask that they consider, if I'm the Planning Commission, my response is, and do what? I mean, you're wanting us to consider something based on what? If it's something different than what's in your ordinances, then they're already going to consider those things, because that's the process, as you've laid it out. If you're wanting them to think about something that's not in your ordinances, that consider something that's not in your process, then number one, I don't think that's proper. And number two, I think you need to be specific enough so that the Planning Commission knows the yardstick by which they're to approve or disapprove. Otherwise, you're just sending it back saying, well, take another look. But if you read the motion they made, it's very specific. And according to your records, Goggins Lane is one of the best county roads you have based on your classification system. It is capable of handling the most traffic at the highest speeds, and that's based on your classification system. The infrastructure's in place, water, sewer is in place. The proximity of this property with Richmond Center, you've all seen that 30-foot wall that's there in the back. Who's going to build a single-family home next to that? This property is not appropriate for single-family development that is surrounded almost entirely by Richmond Center, the most commercial development in Madison County. So I think I just suggest to you that you're not, again, with respect, I think you're just kicking the can down the road. If you send it back to the Planning Commission, I suggest to you they've already considered all this stuff, and it's in their motion. And I think they're telling you, based on all of that, this zoning classification is proper. Now, the challenge still is it's got to be developed, it's got to be engineered, but according to your process, that comes next, not before.
Thank you. Any other questions? Members of the fiscal court?
Judge, I just want to add one thing about the planning commission.
Sure.
The planning commission, and I kind of feel like I got to take up for them a little bit sometimes, but they didn't arrive at this decision lightly. They're a very, very thoughtful group. They had the public hearing. They listened to the evidence. They listened to the speakers. They reviewed exhibits. Ultimately tabled both ordinances because they wanted more time to investigate them.
They voted no on it first, and then they were suggested by the attorney to table. That's correct.
They voted no to approve it, but they never voted no to the recommendation. They voted no on the recommendation to approve. Then they made another motion to table it, yes, because they wanted.
After the attorney's suggestion that they should table.
Well, it's always been Planning Commission's attorney. It's always been his opinion that if you have a controversial, not controversial, but this is a large piece of property that's going to have quite a bit of development on it potentially, he's always been the first to say, if you all aren't comfortable voting tonight, then table it. That's your option. That's your right as a planning commission. Nobody can be expected. I mean, if you take somebody to circuit court, nobody expects that judge, and that's what they are in this case. They're the judge and jury. Nobody expects him to make a decision on the spot. So he encourages them to do that. And in the meantime, that gave them another month to be able to investigate this, ask questions that they need to ask, go look at the property, see it for themselves instead of seeing it on a map or on a picture. So they took their time when they made this decision. It wasn't something that they just flew off the cuff. And this was something that was dropped on their table after the city did what they did, and you know they just did what they do, their process. I just want to say that kind of on their behalf.
Thank you, Bert. Any other comments?
I do, for just a second, please. Respectfully on the city, Mr. Fritz said there was definitely a traffic issue, and for us to use Myers parking lot, verbatim words, and take the stoplight and go out that way, that's the way he would do it. Verbatim, 4 words. Mr. Fritz said, I went there and walked the property. Don't know how you're going to be able to build a lot there because it was a 32-day dry spell and the water from the Richmond Center was flowing well. I just wanted to let you know that.
Anything else, guys? Seeing none, Clerk Barger, we have a motion and a second. So now, if you will, call the roll, please.
Master Barger,
Well, if I vote yes, I'm going against my conscience. Vote no, there could be legal consequences. I abstain.
Abstain. Okay.
Master Tudor,
Yes.
Master Biken,
Yes.
Master Combs.
Yes.
Judge Taylor.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Next, second reading of ordinance. Yeah, anybody wants to? Sure. Yeah, sure. Next is the second reading of ordinance 1921. This is the recall on the ad valorem rate. Glenna, good morning.
Good
again.
morning. An ordinance relating to the repeal of the ordinance 1914 and the setting of the 2019 ad valorem tax rate for Madison County, Kentucky. Whereas the Madison County Clerk's Office notified the Madison County Fiscal Court of the certification of the 2019 ad valorem tax rate recall petition. And whereas the petition would require the tax rate to be suspended and a vote not to occur until the general election on November 3rd, 2020. And whereas citizens communicated a desire to await criminal justice reforms by the General Assembly prior to raising an ad valorem tax to pay for the construction of a jail. And whereas the Madison County Fiscal Court does not control the number of inmates booked into the detention center, the length of their stay, or the amount of the bail they are released on. And whereas the Madison County Fiscal Court is responsible to fund the operation, housing, and medical for the detention center. Now therefore it be ordained by the Fiscal Court of County of Madison, Commonwealth of Kentucky, the following. Section 1, repeal ordinance 1914. And Section 2, enact the 2019 ad valorem tax rate to 8.3 cents per $100. And Section 3, the Madison County Fiscal Court shall continue to advocate at the local, state, and federal level for criminal justice and tax reform.
Thank you, Glenna. Appreciate you reading that. At this time, do I have a motion and a second on the second reading of ordinance 1920? Sorry, let me start all over. Second reading of ordinance 1921, recall ad valorem rate.
So moved.
So I have a motion and a second.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll, Clerk Barger.
Master Tudor,
Yes.
Master Bacon,
Yes.
Master Combs,
Stop.
Yeah.
Stop.
We need
Sorry.
public comment.
Yeah, any
Oh.
public comment at this time? I'm
That's what
sorry,
she's-
this is
that's
the
what she's
second.
here for.
This is the second reading.
The referee.
Sorry. Is there any public comment at this time? This is a second reading of an ordinance, and so it was advertised. All right, seeing none at this time.
So, ma'am, should I resume or start over?
Start over.
All right.
So now, Clerk Barger, if you will, sorry about
Imagine it's not
that.
gonna change based on public comment, but I'll start over. Master Tudor,
Yes.
Master Bacon,
Yes.
Master Combs,
I'm gonna vote yes. I made my statement at the last meeting. I want it over.
Master Barger,
Yes.
Judge Taylor.
Yes. Thank you. Next is the first reading of ordinance 1922. This is a budget amendment for the road department. Glenna?
Yes, we needed to do a budget amendment for the road department because we had several projects this year in the road department, which we weren't aware at budget time in order to put the revenue and the expenditure in there. So on these state projects, we have to spend the money and then get reimbursed by the state. So we scraped up the line item money to spend the money, and now we are getting in the reimbursements from the state, and those need to be budgeted in so we can replenish the line items we originally
That
took
we
it
took
from.
it from, yeah.
So we have, this budget amendment is for this current fiscal year, 2019 through 2020. The account number 024506, which is Bridge Emergency State Reimbursement, we had $314,308 come in that we were not expecting. Truck license distribution, we had $25,988 come in above what we had budgeted. And road reimbursements, we had $35,040 come in above what we had budgeted. So that's a total of $375,336 coming into the road fund. We need to budget that in so we can put it into the expenditure line items.
And so make it clear, Glenna, that this money is
It's
reimbursing.
totally reimbursing us for
Yeah.
projects that we've already done and spent
It's
the money
already
for.
spent.
Right.
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second for the first reading of ordinance 1922. This is a budget amendment, road department. We will have a second reading on December 17th, I believe. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Master Bacon,
Yes.
Master Combs.
Yes.
Master Barger.
Yes.
Master Tudor,
Yes.
Judge Taylor.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Next, Glenna, is the first reading of ordinance 1923, insurance premium tax.
Madison County Fiscal Court Ordinance Number 19-23, an ordinance imposing a license fee or tax upon insurance companies for the privilege of engaging in the business of insurance within the County of Madison, establishing a license fee or tax upon insurance companies at the rate of 5% of the premiums collected, all types of insurance, excluding health and life insurances, establishing an effective date of July 1st and a delinquency date 31 days after the end of each calendar quarter, establishing a penalty interest charge for any license fee or tax not paid on or before the due date, which shall be the tax interest rate defined by KRS 131.01 and published in the annual local government premium tax bulletin issued by the Department of Insurance, establishing a 10% penalty for a license fee or tax not paid within 30 days after the due date, and requiring insurance companies subject to the license fee or tax to furnish quarterly and annual reports required by KRS 91A.080 and 806 KAR 2:095. Be it ordained by the Madison County Fiscal Court, Madison County, Kentucky. Section 1. Definitions. Insurance company means any company authorized to transact in...
I don't mean to interrupt
No.
you, but this isn't exactly just a one-page ordinance.
No, it's a
Most
long
of
one.
it is only required that they read essentially the reference and the summary of the ordinance. So, I mean, the court wants to go through it all, but that's not all required.
What's the pleasure of the court, guys?
I'd like to read it.
Read it. Y'all good with that?
Go ahead.
Lynn's okay with it.
No?
You all continue?
Yes,
Okay, Section 1, definitions. Insurance company means any company authorized to transact insurance business in the state of Kentucky in accordance with KRS Chapter 304. Insurance company shall also include a surplus lines broker license in accordance with KRS Chapter 304, Subtitle 10. B, local government means a city, county, charter county, consolidated local government, urban county government, or unified local government that, by this ordinance, imposes a license fee or tax upon insurance premium receipts. Section 2, there is hereby imposed on each insurance company a license fee or tax for the privilege of engaging in the business of insurance within Madison County. Section 3, except as provided in Section 4 of this ordinance, the license fee or tax imposed upon each insurance company with respect to any insurance policy which is not a life insurance policy shall be 5% of the premiums actually collected within each calendar quarter by reason of the insurance issuance of such policies on risks located within Madison County. The license fee or tax shall apply only to those classes of business which such insurance company is authorized to transact, less all premiums returned to policyholders. Section 4, no license fee or tax imposed upon premium receipt shall apply to the following: A, workers' compensation insurance; B, annuities; C, federal flood insurance; D, municipal bonds, leases, or other debt instruments issued by or on behalf of Madison County unless the bonds, leases, or other debt instruments are issued for profit or on behalf of a for-profit or private organization. Policies of high deductible health plans as defined in 26 U.S.C. Section 223 C2, commonly referred to as health savings accounts. F, policies of insurance insured or reinsured by the Federal Crop Insurance Corporation. G, policies insuring or naming the state or one of its agencies or political subdivisions as an insured or surety bonds where the state or one of its agencies or political subdivisions is the obligee. For the purposes of the local government premium tax payments, school districts are considered agencies of the state, and policies insuring school districts and bonds with school districts as the obligee are exempt from local government premium taxes. H, received on policies of group health insurance provided for state employees under KRS 18A.225. I, received on health insurance policies issued to individuals. J, policies issued to public service companies which pay ad valorem taxes. K, entities issued a certificate of authority to do business in Kentucky only as a health maintenance organization pursuant to KRS 304.38-060. L, entities issued a certificate of authority to do business in Kentucky as a captive insurer pursuant to KRS 304.49-010. M, domestic life insurance companies electing to be taxed under the provisions of KRS 136.320. N, administrative agencies under the direction of the Madison County Fiscal Court county residing in the Madison County are exempt from having the license fee passed on to them, and the insurance companies to which this section applies are prohibited from assessing the license fee upon those administrative agencies. Section 5, all license fees imposed by this ordinance shall be due no later than 30 days after the end of each calendar quarter. The payment shall be submitted to the local government together with the form LGT-14 or similar form prepared by the local government on or before the due date. Any license fee or tax not paid on or before the due date shall bear interest from the date due until paid at the interest rate established annually by Department for Revenue for unpaid and underpaid taxes. This section shall be paid to the local government together with the license fee that is due. In addition, the insurance company shall pay to the local government a penalty in the amount of 10% of the license fee or tax due on a license tax or fee not paid within 30 days after the due date. Section 6, in accordance with KRS 91A.080, each insurance company subject to the license fee or tax imposed by this ordinance shall annually, by March 31st, furnish the local government a written breakdown of all collections in the preceding calendar year for the following categories of insurance. A, casualty and liability. B, automobile. C, inland marine. D, fire and allied perils. Section 8, the local government shall transmit a copy of this ordinance and any amendments thereto to the Kentucky Commissioner of Insurance at least 100 days prior to the effective date of this ordinance. Section 9, this ordinance shall become effective on the first day of July 2020.
Okay, thanks, Glenn, appreciate it. So at this time, I need a motion and a second to approve the first reading of ordinance 1923, insurance premium tax.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Is there any discussion at this time?
Yeah, I got a couple of little questions I'd like to ask.
Sure.
Who will be collecting this money? Will it be at the end of the year or a quarter or?
According to the ordinance right there, I think she just read it.
It's paid at the end of the quarter, and it's paid
quarterly.
directly to the local government entity.
Who figures that?
The companies figure it, and then they turn it into the
State.
Department of Insurance. Department
So
of Insurance
all
reconciles it.
Insurance companies will be notified
Yes.
as to the 5%?
Yes, Department of Insurance takes care of all that. That's why we have to have it to them 100 days before it becomes effective.
So and when does this start?
July 1st, 2020. So we would not see any receipts from that until by October 31st of 2020.
Is there any estimate how much this is gonna bring in?
Department of Insurance cannot give you an estimate because there's so many different circumstances that go along with each county, how much recreational toys you have in that county, how much land you have in that county. So comparable to with other entities, other counties that are comparable in size to us, around 2 to 2.5 million.
That's getting 5%.
That's 5%. Yes.
2.5 million roughly. I mean, you really won't know until you get the
No,
money.
no.
correct.
You will not know until you enact it and get the money.
And they're all over, like when you look at other counties that actually have this implemented, I mean, they're really kind of all over the board.
There's lots of things that play into it. That's the reason Department of Insurance will tell you, we can't give you an estimate.
Well, I don't think it's good to vote on something that you don't even have an estimate on. It could bring in 8 million. We don't know, but hopefully it won't, but, well, maybe hopefully it would, but it could bring in a lot more than 2 million.
It could bring in 100,000 too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
there's no fiscal way to get a estimate on it.
Well, I know, let me say this, because you know how I'm gonna vote anyway. But Prestonsburg done this same exact thing. And a group of people that didn't like it. And this is not subject to recall, correct?
Honestly, I'd have to look at that at this point. DOI would have to be involved.
Well, I'd hope it wouldn't be like the last one, because there's a lot of work went into that one. But what I'm saying is, they hired an attorney and took it to court, beat it. But can you look into, is it subject to recall?
I can.
Okay.
Judge, I got a comment or two.
Go ahead.
Are you done, Larry?
Yeah, I'm done.
what most people don't know, the city of Richmond and the city of Berea is already charging these insurance premium taxes at the rate of 8%, and 6%. And Madison County is a county that is among a very few that is not charging this insurance premium tax. This will not go to building a new jail. This will not go to building a rehab center. This will only go to trying to survive, trying to pay for inmates in other counties that we're housing, trying to continue some of the services we're providing. I've heard Magistrate Combs make the comment he's willing to shut down the fire department. I'm not willing to do that. I don't think the public wants to close down the county fire department. If that was something that did come about, your ISO ratings would double more than what the cost of this insurance premium tax would be. You would not have any fire protection. So this is I feel like a needed tax to continue the services we're providing. I don't like it. I'm against taxes altogether. But at some point, you have to cut your ties and do what the people elected you to do, and that's operate your county services. I'm going to take a lot of grief over this. I already am. I've been talked down to, put down, cursed, threatened. My wife's been assaulted or abused in the grocery store, was assaults. I don't deserve this. And then people were saying we're lining their pockets. The magistrates get $30,000 a year. After my term's over, welcome somebody else to come on board, because it sure hadn't been worth the $30,000 I've received. But I feel like I've made the votes that was best for the county, and I'll continue to do that.
This money is to pay the bills, as in my report earlier. You know, I'm transferring from investments. At this rate of transferring from investments, we will have depleted our investments by this time next year, and we'll be going bankrupt. So that's just the plain fact of it. This is to pay the bills.
John, I think just the opposite.
And to have this, and the reason why our bills have increased so much is mostly the housing of inmates in other counties, plus your everyday, normal wear and tear that expenses that go up.
Well, we need to bring light to the pension obligation too.
Yes.
I mean, we've never really dealt with that because we've been trying to be efficient in the last couple of years, that we've taken extra money to be able to pay that pension obligation, but you know, we don't have those ways to continue to do that as well. So
Yeah,
I
the
mean, that
pension
hits us.
obligation that was set into motion 3 years ago is,
It was it, and it was phased in for 4 years.
it's
basically.
$1 million increase. $1 million increase.
Yeah.
We're already getting $1.6 million increase just on housing inmates. We're paying out $169,000 in bills for the jail just this 2-week court.
And that's something we don't have the option on not paying.
No,
do we?
no, sir. We have to pay the bills.
Rod, you want to say something?
Well, I'm not disagreeing with everything John said. I think he is correct. What I was saying, just the opposite. Who in the hell would want this job? I'd say we're all gonna come back here if we want to. I don't know who in the world would sit and watch what we've gone through and then wanna run for office. It's not because we aren't wanting a tax, but we're just trying to pay the bills, just like she said. Like John, I've been called some names that I didn't like, you know. I mean, it's just part of it, but this has got ridiculous. That's all there is to it. We're just trying to pay the bills and keep the services that we've got still going, and there'll still be some of those that'll have to go away. We just haven't decided which ones yet.
And all these people Roger raising so much hell has no answers for.
That's exactly. They've got an answer, but it don't work. I mean, it's illegal to do or whatever, you know, but.
And just as a comparison that most people don't know, we took the top 15 counties that are comparable to us in size. And you take out Jefferson and Fayette, we're number 7. Out of the top 15, we are dead last on revenues. We are $2 million below the lowest in the top 15 counties of revenue. So how we offer the services that we do offer and have offered for the last years and have not raised taxes for 50 years, we're running on borrowed
I've
time.
heard that about
You
all
can't
I
keep,
wanna hear it. You haven't been here 50 years, you don't know that. And furthermore, you got a checkbook, you write checks every month, most people do, I do. And, if you don't have the money, you make cutbacks. That's the reason we talked about maybe what could we sell, what could we not sell. And I think those things need to be addressed first. Get rid of some of the stuff that's costing you money and put it in the general fund. And as far as what John said, ISO has nothing to do with this. Their rating is, they don't even honor ISO no more. Call your insurance, they'll tell you. It's classified what, something R in it.
It should be in your Dropbox, but we're class 3 is what we are. Anywhere within 5 miles of a county paid for station, you're class 3.
So as long as you've got a volunteer or full-time or whatever, and you're within 5 miles of that,
Volunteer is a class 5 ISO rating.
but you still have insurance, you'd still have coverage.
If you're within 5 miles of
Okay.
their station, you're class 5.
I'll rest my case.
Tim, what would be the difference in the cost of a class
But I-
3 and a class?
How
class 5?
far up? Is where you're
But
going?
I don't know what
Over 5
case,
miles?
I wanna be clear on what case you're resting, Larry,
No.
just to make sure that, Larry, I wanna be clear what case you're resting, cause I wanna make sure that I understand too, what everybody's saying.
About the ISO,
Mhm.
that's all.
Tim,
What about the ISO though? Then
I
it's
call
not
my
counted?
insurance agent, and they don't even honor ISO, it's quadrant. And I had 2 other people call, and they said, as long as you're within the 5 mile, exactly what he said, you would have insurance and it wouldn't go up.
Most of your insurance companies, I've talked to 7 or 8 different agents in the last 2 weeks.
That material's in your Dropbox for all of you all, that grid of who.
The only one that does not recognize ISO rating is State Farm. All other insurance companies base their ratings off ISO.
So that's who I have, State Farm.
State Farm will be the only one that does not recognize, and they go for a protective or an unprotected class, and they base it off a zip code.
Well,
But there is a difference though in a class 3 and a 5 though.
Oh, yes, yes.
There's a
yes.
difference in premiums.
And there's some different agents, there's some phone numbers on those, the ones I talked to, they said they'd be more glad to answer any questions any of you have, call them. And right after I came in as chief, I'll use an example, we did a house that, I did a mutual aid agreement with the city of Richmond for covering Dunn Canyon, they took in part of Burke County with their Station 3. It saved one home over $4,500 a year because that put them, they was outside of our 5 mile, but they was within Richmond's 5 miles, so that put them under their class 3 protection class.
Yeah. Well, I know ISOs mean something because, I mean, you work with ISO people that come in and
Yes.
actually do an overview of our county. I know I work with Red Lick Volunteer Fire Department in southern Madison Water on making sure that there's a few hydrants in places that lowered some of those residents down there in that area 30%. I mean, and it went from, I remember, if I remember correctly, it went from like a 9 to a 6.
They're
With-
5.
5?
Yep.
So it went from a 9 to a 5, which lowered it 30%. I mean, that's a substantial amount of money on your home insurance premiums to lower. So I know since I've been here for 5 years that ISO does matter when it comes to saving our landowners and property owners money, in my experience. I mean, and I continue to work with our utility companies on trying to, where we can, upgrade lines for fire flow and to be able to try to continue to lower some of those insurance premium costs for our constituents. So.
But as well, we've got a lot of places that reaches way farther than 5 miles.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yep.
So, okay.
Appreciate it.
Well,
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
He, some of the insurance companies, Judge, that Chief has talked to, when he's talking about Linville Insurance, that's Travelers, Westfield, American Water, Kentucky Fair Plains, Liberty Mutual, Moppin Insurance, Hearst Home Insurance, Hatfield Insurance, Kentucky Farm Bureau. I talked to my insurance agent, who's right down here. I'll run and stop by there and talk to them the other day, asked them on the house where I used to live on Welchwood Drive. If the fire department was closed, what would that do to the rate? She told me point blank the rate would go up. Close your fire department, your insurance rate's going up. So what do you have to do? If you don't have a fire department, what you gotta do? Still gotta have a mutual agreement, somebody apply to put out a fire. If your fire catches on home, who's gonna do that? Who's left? Richmond or Berea.
Well, you also have the ordinance too, but I don't think that come out that much, do it?
I
don't
mean,
know about
Chief
the-
would know, I mean, there's a mutual aid on some of that stuff in that area out there. I don't know how far that they actually come.
Yeah, we have a mutual aid with the Bluegrass Army Depot. They come anywhere off the ordinance that we call them. But usually the only place we use them is on the 52 side, around the Robbinsville area. Then on the 421 side, in that gray area between Red Licks coverage and our coverage. And that just gets them out and gets us out faster response, more help, more manpower on scene.
And even
There's no
though,
use Red Lick coming 10 mile into town when we can use Big Ed right there within 3 miles of their station off the depot.
and there is, ISO also looks at, you brought this point up to me the other day when we were having a conversation, which I thought was a valid point, is even though our paid county station might not be within 5 miles, they're there 24/7.
Yes.
So their response time could potentially still be equivalent to a volunteer time, because the volunteers might not be at their volunteer
Yeah,
station, right?
And a volunteer is just what it is, it's a volunteer. He may be at work, he may be at home. He has to leave that, wherever he's at, go to the station. It may be 3 mile, it may be 10 mile. He may be in Richmond and have to drive all the way to Red Lick to pick an engine up, then come back to the scene. So that's delaying your response time. Whenever we're out of the station, or we're in the station, or wherever, we're on that truck, the guys or gals are ready to roll at that time. When the call comes in, they get in a route from wherever they're at with the fire truck. So that increases your response time.
Okay.
That's the emergency calls.
Thank you, Chief. All right, guys, we've had a motion, a second, on first reading of ordinance 1923, insurance premium tax. This is a first reading, so in first reading, we don't have public comment. Public comment will come at the second reading. I want to make sure I make that announcement. Do we have any more discussion, guys? All right, seeing none, Clerk Barger, if you will, please call the roll.
Master Combs?
No.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
I want to vote no, but I got to vote yes. Kenny?
Master Botkin?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Thanks, guys, appreciate it. Next is the sheriff's general term order correction. We are gonna move this to the,
After thinking about that, it's a correction where the figure was moved to another item, or another line. And, where you signed it, you'd already signed one, but it was the one that wasn't on the correct line, so that's all that is.
okay.
It's the correction.
So it's a correction of a line item in the,
The figure that is, on that one line, it was moved to another line, which was the correct one. When the auditor discovered it was on the wrong line.
okay. So auditors are asking us to make this correction.
Yes, that's all it is correction.
Okay. If it's the pleasure of the court, will y'all approve me in signing this general term order? Y'all,
So moved.
I have a motion and a second.
Let me
Is there any
clarify-
discussion?
Let me clarify for a minute. Is that the 19 general term order or 20 general term order?
On here, it
It's a
says the
correction on it.
calendar year 2019.
Okay, so it's a correction on this, okay, all right. Just make sure we got it in there. Who was the motion second? I was thinking.
Motion was Roger,
I
and the
second.
second it was John.
All right.
Allow me to sign this general term order correction. Any other discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Botkin?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Next, the judge's report. I've got a few announcements. Madison Central's marching band will be participating in this year's Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in New York City. I know it's a really exciting time for our community. It will be on November the 28th. The parade begins at 9 a.m. and will be televised locally on WLEX 18. Please see their website or Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade website for a parade lineup. So if you have a chance to watch that, it would be awesome. Madison County Courthouse and its related offices will be closed Thursday and Friday, November 28th and 29th for Thanksgiving Day holiday. We will reopen on Monday, December the 2nd at 8 a.m. Holiday events around the county that are coming up. We have two parades. One is the Richmond's Christmas Parade that will be Friday, December the 6th, beginning at 6 p.m. And Berea's Christmas Parade will be Saturday, December 7th at 6 p.m. And I do want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and safe travels. Next, comments from magistrates. Tom?
Just basically the same thing. Just want to wish everybody happy Thanksgiving. I attended on behalf of the court last week a ceremony over at EKU for a dedication of a chair at the Eastern Coliseum for their MI and POW. Judge, that was one of the best ceremonies I've ever been to.
Good.
And those three ladies that came and talked about their loved ones, just happened to be their fathers, who were all killed in the line of service in different places around the world, were just, it was phenomenal. You know, and the work that they're doing to ensure that that you know, MIAs and POWs and families with those circumstances, that we don't quit till we find out. We don't quit till they come home. And so I just wanted to share that with everybody, and that's it for me.
Thank you. John?
I just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and spend time with your families and appreciate what you have and the people that live before you make this privilege available. Just be thankful and thank God for all that we do have. That's all I got, Jim.
Thanks, John. Raj?
Just want to say it, no matter how bad we think we got it, we're still a blessed nation. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. That's all I got, Judge. I'm going to be late for another meeting here shortly.
Larry?
Just glad to be here. I'll get you out here.
Kenny? Do you have anything?
No, sir.
Counsel?
No, sir.
No. Sheriff, you good?
No,
See, you good. All right. Next, comments from department heads. All right. Seeing none, we'll move on. Comments from the audience. Brother. Jack? Hi, buddy.
Jack
State-
Van Winkle.
Yeah, state your name. Yeah.
Richmond, Kentucky. I just want to tell you, Magistrate, it's just absolutely astonishing how you guys do your zone changes. Absolutely astonishing. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
You go well.
Next is, anybody else? Anybody else? Seeing none? I need a motion to pay the claims and approve the transfers.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Master Buckin?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?
Yes. Remember, next meeting is December 17th. Taylor, just make sure it's off cycle because we only have one meeting in December. So remember, it's in the middle of the month, and that will be 3 weeks basically from today. But that is December 17th, 2019 at 9:30, and that will be here in Richmond. I need a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Master Buckin?
Yes.
Master Combs?
Yes.
Master Barger?
Yes.
Master Tudor?
Yes.
Judge Taylor?